Imagine for a second that your most frustrating, self-sabotaging habit, that thing you do over and over again.
Right, even though you totally know it's terrible for you.
Exactly. What if that wasn't actually a lack of willpower? And what if the world's most complex medical mysteries, like the diseases we've spent literally billions trying to cure, aren't random biological accidents either?
It's a huge question.
It really is. So welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are looking at something pretty wild. It's 35 years of independent research that claims to hold, well, the source code of reality.
Yeah, the actual source code, it proposes that reality is a highly structured, perfectly calculated algorithm. And essentially, humanity has been misreading the code since the very dawn of time.
Which is just a massive claim.
It's a sweeping, fundamental challenge to how we construct human knowledge, period. We are looking at a theoretical framework called quantum DNA, or sometimes it's called the algorithm of creation.
And this was developed by the independent scientist Juan Carlos Pérez Velázquez, right?
Yes. And the sources we are pulling from today include his course syllabuses, his manifestos, and transcripts from his lectures.
We're going to break down these really complex physics and behavioral concepts into simple mechanics you can visualize.
So the theory builds its foundation on a stark contrast between what it calls cosmic precision and human error. The basic premise is that the universe operates on absolute truth. There is zero ambiguity in nature.
I think the text provides some very grounded examples of this, which helps set the baseline. Like, if you plant an orange seed in the soil.
Assuming the conditions are viable, of course.
Right, assuming it can grow, that seed is always going to produce an orange tree. It will never, ever yield an apple tree.
Right, it doesn't improvise. Every action, every element executes a flawless sequence. Look at human biology. A heart only performs the function of a heart.
It just pumps blood.
Exactly. Its biological mandate is to pump blood. It doesn't spontaneously adapt to, filter toxins. That is the liver's absolute domain.
And in physics, atomic structures respond flawlessly to their proton count, right? Like, carbon contains 6 protons.
Yes. That is an absolute non-negotiable state of its identity. The universe, according to this framework, does not guess. It executes predetermined space-time algorithms.
But then the theory turns its lens on human cognition. And it makes this wild claim that while the physical universe operates on absolute precision, a staggering 92% of current human thought operates in conceptual chaos.
Yeah, 92%. It classifies all that collective knowledge as relative truth, flawed modeling.
Wow. So nearly everything we think we know.
Pretty much. The argument is that humanity is currently passing through a period of evolutionary transition. We are essentially a species in transit.
So we haven't reached our peak cognitive or evolutionary state yet.
Right. So we are basically fumbling in the dark. We keep inventing relative truths to explain a universe we don't mechanically understand.
The sources use a really specific example of this contradiction, and I think anyone listening can probably recognize this. They talk about a medical doctor who smokes cigarettes.
Oh, yeah. It's a perfect example.
Because traditional empirical science has linked nicotine and tar to lung cancer with absolute certainty. The biological data is not ambiguous at all.
No, it's very clear.
Yet you have a highly educated human being, someone who intimately understands the cellular consequences, voluntarily engaging in an action that destroys their own biology.
And that behavioral paradox is the absolute core of the theory's critique of human reasoning. It exposes this deep detachment between the facts we observe and the reality we actually live.
Right.
We construct elaborate philosophies, religions, and complex scientific models to manage our existence, but the sources argue these are basically just coping mechanisms.
Like Band-Aids.
Exactly. They are band-aids covering our fundamental ignorance of the universe's actual structural laws.
I want to push back on this early, though, because it feels like a paradox within the theory itself.
How so?
Well, if the human brain is an absolute creation of this flawless, mathematically perfect universe, just like the orange seed or the carbon atom, how does the theory explain why the thoughts it produces are so chaotic? Like, why is the human brain the sole outlier in a universe of absolute precision?
That very question is actually what launched Pérez Velázquez's entire 35-year investigation.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If the brain is an absolute organ, why are its ideas relative? The source material posits that humans, due to our transitional evolutionary state, are entirely focused on the consequences of problems rather than their root causes.
Okay, we focus on the symptoms.
Right. We are essentially disconnected from the seed of creation.
I feel like I need a mechanical breakdown of what disconnected from the seed actually means in practice.
Sure, so the texts point heavily to the pharmaceutical industry to illustrate this mechanism. Modern medicine, by and large, is designed to treat biological symptoms, right?
Yeah, usually.
But these symptoms are just the consequences of a deeper disruption. If a patient presents with chronic pain, they are prescribed a pill that interrupts the pain receptors in the brain.
So the pain stops.
The pain stops, yes, but the origin of the biological deficiency, the structural reason the body is generating that pain in the first place, remains completely unaddressed.
I see. So the argument is that because we don't possess the ultimate source code like the mathematical space-time algorithm that dictates how human biology is supposed to function flawlessly, we can only operate on the surface level.
Exactly.
It's like we are pruning the leaves of a sick tree while the roots are literally rotting underground.
That's a great analogy. And because we are constantly reacting to consequences rather than understanding root structures, we are trapped in guesswork. We rely on highly educated, empirically tested guesswork. But, I mean, it still remains guesswork.
And the theory suggests this is the engine of all human division, right?
Yes. Different scientific models, competing philosophical schools, polarized political ideologies, they all exist because nobody holds the absolute truth. We are all just arguing over different interpretations of the 92% error.
Okay, let's follow that logic for a second. If 92% of human thought is flawed, relative guesswork, where is the 8%?
Right.
If the brain is capable of producing something absolute, where did Pérez Velázquez actually find it?
To find the absolute, he had to trace human thought backward. He was looking for a single concept generated by the human brain that has not mutated or altered its fundamental conditions since the very dawn of human consciousness.
He needed an intellectual constant.
Exactly, a pure, uncorrupted idea.
And he found it in something that drives the very device you are probably using to listen to us right now. The binary system.
Yes. Zeros and ones, open and closed, male and female, continuous and discontinuous, presence and absence.
The sources trace the appearance of this binary seed across completely isolated ancient civilizations, which is fascinating. We are talking about the ancient Ife Empire in West Africa.
Yeah, they utilized a 16-part binary system for divination.
And we see it in the cult of Osiris in ancient Egypt, which was heavily focused on duality. And then we see it in the Qin dynasty in China, right?
Yes, where the I Ching was codified using hexagrams made of solid and broken lines to represent the fundamental states of change in the universe.
And today, that exact same binary logic is the absolute bedrock of the digital era. Every piece of software, every algorithm, the entire internet you browse, it all operates on zeros and ones.
And the theory proposes a radical shift in how we view this history. The binary system isn't just a clever mathematical tool invented by early humans. It is the baseline geometry of the universe actually bleeding through human consciousness.
Wow.
It is the language of creation attempting to express itself. And this binary code, according to the texts, forms the structural foundation of the quantum DNA.
The quantum DNA, the algorithm of creation.
Right. The framework defines quantum DNA as a step-by-step mathematical algorithm. It is a specific, readable sequence of space-time frequencies that dictates the creation and continuous existence of absolutely everything.
Everything.
Everything. From the gravitational pull of a galaxy all the way down to the cellular division of a single plant, everything possesses a specific quantum footprint based on this binary logic.
So we have ancient philosophers in Africa and China playing with the underlying math of reality, and we have modern software engineers building artificial intelligence using the exact same math.
Yeah.
But according to the theory, neither group realizes the cosmic scale of what they're handling. They don't recognize that the zeros and ones they use to code a website are the same zeros and ones the universe uses to code a human liver.
They are basically wielding the hammer without understanding who forged it. But when you finally understand the origin of the tool, the source material claims it fundamentally upends how we approach knowledge. Specifically, it dismantles the scientific method entirely.
Wait.
Through a concept called the elimination of hypothesis.
Let me stop you there. The elimination of hypothesis. That is a massive claim. Because the entire foundation of modern progress, like 400 years of the scientific method, Karl Popper's theory of falsifiability, observation, guessing, testing, and peer review, the theory is claiming all of this is entirely obsolete.
It classifies the scientific method as a crutch we used while we were blind. I mean, if you accept the core premise that the quantum DNA contains the exact predetermined space-time sequence of every single existence in the universe, then guesswork becomes completely unnecessary.
Because a hypothesis is really just a formalized guess.
Exactly.
The answer isn't something you have to discover through trial and error anymore. It's already written in the code. You just have to read it.
The texts outline a mechanism where a trained individual can trace the specific vibrational sequence of an element within this universal quantum matrix. They can look directly at the design of creation.
So they just bypass the whole testing phase.
Right. By accessing the exact mathematical coordinates of a problem, they skipped the trial and error phase entirely. What traditional science might spend 20 years and millions of dollars investigating through double-blind studies, this theory claims can be decoded in a fraction of the time with absolute precision.
Let's ground this for the listener, because if you work in scientific research, this framework is essentially telling you that your entire career methodology is the slow way around the mountain.
Yeah, it claims there is a tunnel going straight through the center.
But the natural hurdle here is application. If human beings are operating in a state of 92% error, like we talked about, how does a flawed human actually read a flawless cosmic code without corrupting it? Like, who is actually allowed to access this matrix?
Well, this brings us to the specific professional role detailed extensively in the course syllabuses. The certification program exists to forge completely new type of professional.
Okay.
They are called a quantum DNA-based behavior intelligence specialist, or simply an analyst.
A quantum analyst.
Yep.
It has a very sci-fi ring to it, honestly, but the material treats it with extreme academic rigor. But what struck me most is how this analyst interacts with the world we already know. Because they aren't coming in to just replace the established order, are they?
No, the texts make a critical distinction here. The analyst is not designed to compete with traditional specialists.
Right.
They aren't trained to be better surgeons than medical doctors or better structural engineers than actual architects. Instead, the analyst is meant to empower those specialists.
So they act as kind of a Rosetta Stone.
A bridge of scientific structure, yeah. The analyst is trained to hold universal knowledge regarding natural laws, properties, and space-time principles that are currently totally unknown to traditional empiricism.
Let's talk about the foundation of that knowledge. Because the sources mention a massive literary corpus underpinning all of this. It's a 10-book series called La Verdad del Futuro, The Truth of the Future, and a quantum DNA encyclopedia.
Yeah. And the syllabus notes that these texts will eventually be made available to the public, so anyone will be able to read the philosophical concepts, including what the author called genetic vibration.
But reading it doesn't mean you can use it.
Right. Reading the theory doesn't give you the capacity to execute it. Only a certified analyst is trained to operate the proprietary, intelligent, computerized quantum system called the Matrix XL.
The Matrix XL. Okay, I really want to understand the mechanics of this software. How does an analyst actually extract a blueprint? Like, what does it mean to pull a quantum design out of a computer?
The theory posits that the Matrix XL is capable of interpreting deep codes and formulations. It actually traces the space-time sequences of whatever is being investigated. So if a biological symptom has a vibrational root, the Matrix XL tracks that vibration back to its exact mathematical coordinate in space-time.
Let's apply this to a practical scenario so we can visualize it. Say we're looking at a major medical crisis, a highly complex disease. The syllabus specifically mentions cancer, liver disorders, and psoriasis in Module 14.
Okay.
Traditionally, a medical specialist is trapped in that cycle of hypothesis we talked about. They test a new molecule, observe the side effects, tweak the dosage, run clinical trials for a decade, and just hope for statistical improvement.
Right, the long way around the mountain. In the quantum DNA paradigm, the analyst intercepts that process. The analyst sits down with the Matrix XL and inputs the parameters of the biological deficiency.
Okay.
The software then tracks the specific quantum design of the disease. It locates the exact space-time coordinates detailing how and why that cellular structure is failing.
It's like they find the corrupted folder in the cosmic filing cabinet.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And adjacent to that corrupted folder is the structural algorithm for its correction. The analyst then extracts the mathematical space-time algorithm of the antidote.
But the analyst doesn't go to a laboratory and synthesize the drug themselves.
No, not at all. The analyst hands this structural blueprint to the medical doctor or the pharmacologist. They provide the mathematical coordinate of the cure. The medical specialist then uses their years of traditional technical training to translate that algorithm into a biological counterpart.
Oh, I see.
By providing the flawless foundation, the theory claims the specialist can reach depths of healing that were previously totally unreachable, literally eradicating the structural root of the disease rather than just masking its consequences.
So, if I'm understanding the workflow here, the analyst translates the vibrational frequency of a tumor into a mathematical equation, derives the opposing equation that neutralizes it, and then the doctor builds the physical medicine that matches that second equation.
Yes. That is the intended synergy between the absolute structure of the analyst and the technical execution of the specialist.
Okay, but I have a major problem with this.
What's that?
If the universe is flawless, and we have the capacity to access this perfect blueprint for health and balance via the quantum DNA, why is the human experience so profoundly messy in the first place?
Right.
Like, the mere existence of an analyst capable of pulling perfect cures implies that something is deeply broken. If the universe doesn't make mistakes, how does the text justify a flawless universe creating a self-destruct button within humanity? Why do we still act like the doctor who smokes?
Well, you are hitting on what is arguably the most challenging and psychologically heavy concept in the entire framework. It's called the quantum opposite.
The internal prosecutor.
Yes.
Well,
The texts describe it as an actual enemy hidden within us. It is an internal force, a specific set of ideas generated within the brain that acts purposefully against our original essence of creation.
so it's not just a mistake.
No, it is the mechanical root cause of all human self-sabotage, addiction, and destructive behavior.
I need to understand the mechanism behind this, because we aren't just talking about a lack of discipline here. The theory suggests we are literally wired to fight ourselves. Where does this internal prosecutor come from?
It derives from a phenomenon the author terms quantum mutation. To really grasp this, we have to return to the premise that every individual human being has a unique space-time sequence.
Okay.
You have your own unique algorithm, your own specific coordinate in the matrix.
So I have a specific quantum sequence.
Got it. Now, basic biology dictates that a human male and a human female are biologically compatible to reproduce, right? Their molecular DNA can fuse to create offspring.
Yes, that is how the species continues.
But the theory of quantum DNA argues that while two humans might be biologically compatible, their quantum space-time sequences might be completely incompatible. They represent two entirely different mathematical algorithms.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, because humans are in a period of transitional evolution, meaning we don't know how to read the cosmic code to find our true quantum matches. We reproduce based on biological instinct, social proximity, or, relative emotional connections.
Right. Love, attraction, convenience.
Exactly. And when these highly incompatible space-time sequences fuse over generations, it creates a corrupted code. The offspring essentially inherit a structural paradox.
Mutation in the source code.
Yes. The texts refer to it pretty ominously as a quantum pandemic. This generational accumulation of clashing algorithms is the source of our evolutionary deficiencies, our chronic biological diseases, and our deeply ingrained destructive behaviors.
Wow.
Every human born into this transitional period carries a mixture of their true creation essence and the distorted code of the quantum opposite.
The sources use a very practical, everyday example to illustrate this mutation at work, and I think it makes the concept terrifyingly clear. They talked about something as simple as chocolate.
Oh yes, the chocolate example.
Consider a person whose original uncorrupted quantum life sequence is fundamentally incompatible with the frequency of chocolate. At a foundational level, it disrupts their system. Their true biology just rejects it.
Right. Yet this same person will aggressively defend their habit. They'll say, I've loved the darkest, richest chocolate since I was a child. I crave it every single day.
And that intense craving for a substance that actively harms their biological structure, that is the quantum opposite in action.
It's a cellular addiction to something that fights their true design.
It's like booting up a pristine, perfectly designed computer, but there's a background virus written directly into the operating system. It quietly demands you download files that will eventually destroy the hard drive. How does this internal tug-of-war actually play out over a person's lifespan, though? Like, is everyone equally corrupted?
Not exactly. The source material breaks this down into percentages to account for the vast spectrum of human behavior. It asks us to imagine an individual who is born with a ratio of 90% essence of creation and 10% quantum opposite.
Okay, so this person is operating mostly on their true code.
Yes. This individual might manifest as a highly successful genius. They could be a revolutionary scientist or a visionary artist who fundamentally advances human progress.
But they still have that 10%.
Right. However, that 10% corrupted code still has to manifest somewhere. It cannot just be ignored.
Right.
So while they thrive intellectually and socially, that 10% might express itself as a chronic, debilitating autoimmune disease that they battle behind closed doors their entire life.
The mutation demands its toll physically, even if the mind is largely free.
Now consider the inverse. Imagine an individual born with a ratio of 90% quantum opposite and only 10% true essence.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a structural blueprint for a nightmare.
The text suggests this imbalance results in a highly destructive or profoundly self-destructive life. This explains severe antisocial behaviors, deep-rooted chemical addictions, and individuals who cause immense suffering to themselves and society. Their internal prosecutor is essentially sitting in the driver's seat.
But the theory introduces a core law here that provides a strange, almost deterministic comfort, doesn't it?
Yes. The law states, creation does not deny itself.
Unpack that. What does that mean for the person operating at 90% opposite who is actively destroying their life?
It means that while the quantum opposite can cause immense suffering, while it can manifest as horrific disease, and while it can even cause premature biological death, it can never entirely prevent a person from fulfilling their ultimate objective of creation.
That is a heavy philosophical pivot. Even if you are battling extreme addiction driven by a corrupted quantum algorithm, the universe ensures you still hit your mark.
The claim is that nobody is eliminated from this reality without first executing the specific space-time sequence they were created to fulfill. The universe does not fail to execute its designs, even when they are obscured by the mutation.
We are talking about fundamentally rewriting our understanding of biology, psychology, and human destiny. I mean, to understand your own quantum opposite, to read the source code of reality without corrupting it, and to guide humanity out of this chaotic 92% error that requires a mind that has been completely rebuilt.
Which brings us back to the reality of the certification program itself. The process of forging a quantum analyst is not presented as an abstract seminar. It is a grueling intellectual gauntlet.
Let's look at the syllabus structure. We're talking about a 20-and-a-half-month program that is nearly 2 years of continuous, highly concentrated study.
It demands a massive professional commitment. Yet the logistical design of the course is highly specific. Classes are held exclusively on weekends, Saturdays, and Sundays.
That detail really stood out to me because it implies they aren't looking for isolated monks, They want active working professionals to undergo this training without interrupting their standard professional work week.
They want minds that are already functioning at a high level within the 92% error so they can actually bridge the gap. But the time commitment is really the easy part. The intellectual and psychological demands are severe. The course requires a violently critical mindset.
The texts are incredibly explicit about this. The program rigorously dismantles established paradigms. It systematically questions and often completely rejects mainstream religion, traditional metaphysics, and accepted philosophical models.
Right. Everything is approached from a strict epistemological perspective based solely on these new space-time laws.
But this raises my final structural question about the program.
Okay.
Let's say someone survives this 20-and-a-half-month gauntlet. They maintain their points. They are given access to the Matrix XL. We're talking about a software tool that supposedly diagnoses the trajectory of countries, cures complex cellular diseases, and maps human behavior. How does the organization protect a tool of that magnitude? How do you prevent the source code of reality from being weaponized by someone whose quantum opposite decides to take over?
Well, the program employs a strict security protocol for its graduates, which is referred to in the text as the confidential legacy.
Confidential legacy.
Yes, the most powerful components of this certification, the final proprietary software, the advanced tracking tools, and the ultimate algorithms that interface with the matrix are never transmitted digitally.
So you don't just get an encrypted email link or access to a cloud server.
Absolutely not. The materials state that these final critical components are handed over strictly in person and in total confidentiality at the graduation ceremony.
The syllabus even notes that the administration will physically travel to the main city of the graduates' respective countries to conduct this handover face-to-face.
Right. This physical, localized transfer is designed to ensure that the technology is only given to minds that have been thoroughly stress-tested. By the time a student reaches the confidential legacy, they have survived 20-and-a-half months of rigorous unlearning, and they have proven they can wield the quantum DNA without corrupting it with human relativity.
Man, we have covered a staggering amount of conceptual ground today.
It is an incredibly dense framework that challenges the very bedrock of how we perceive reality.
Let's synthesize this for you listening. We began by exploring the provocative claim that 92% of human knowledge is a chaotic junk drawer of relative error, fundamentally detached from the absolute precision of the cosmic filing cabinet. We then traced the search for the remaining 8% of absolute truth back to the ancient binary code.
Right, a mathematical seed that has survived unchanged from ancient African and Chinese empires to the silicon chips of our digital present.
From there, we examined the mechanics of the quantum analyst. This role is not a replacement for traditional scientific specialists, but a structural Rosetta Stone. The analyst utilizes the matrix Excel to bypass centuries of the scientific method, extracting the exact mathematical algorithms of diseases and behavioral crises and providing those flawless blueprints to specialists who can manifest them in reality.
And we then confronted the psychological weight of the quantum opposite, the concept that due to a generational quantum mutation, we all harbor an internal prosecutor, a corrupted algorithm that forces us to crave the very things that destroy our true essence.
And finally, we looked at the uncompromising 20-and-a-half-month weekend crucible required to deconstruct a professional mind and prepare it to receive the confidential legacy.
If we pull all of this esoteric theory back into the reality of our listeners, the practical application is fascinating.
Yes, if you are listening to this on your commute, how does this theoretical physics framework change your Tuesday morning?
Think about that internal tug of war. The next time you find yourself making a decision you know is detrimental, whether you are reaching for a substance that harms you, actively procrastinating on a crucial project, or remaining in a deeply toxic environment, apply the lens of the quantum opposite. Ask yourself, is it your original essence making that choice, or is your internal prosecutor running the code?
Wow.
Are you acting from your flawless structural design, or are you helplessly acting out an inherited quantum mutation?
It is a profound shift in perspective. It kind of removes a layer of moral guilt, but replaces it with a heightened structural responsibility. It forces you to become hyper-aware of your own internal mechanics. And honestly, looking at the scope of this entire theory, it leaves me with one final, unavoidable question.
What's that?
If this framework is mechanically accurate, if every single existence, action, and consequence in the universe operates on a predetermined, readable space-time algorithm, what does that mean for the concept of human free will?
That is the big one.
Right. If an analyst using the matrix Excel can mathematically map out our entire capacity, our mutations, and our ultimate end, are our choices ever really our own? When humanity finally transitions out of its 92% error and learns to read the source code of creation, will we find that we are the powerful authors of our destiny, or simply actors perfectly executing a script that was mathematically finalized at the dawn of time? We'll leave you to ponder that. Because whether we are trying to decode the cosmic matrix or just trying to understand our own self-destructive habits, the search for the absolute truth continues.